Okay. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics. This is episode number 1854 and Doubleshot number 1748. Now I have two things related to Daredevil here. First is a Daredevil Epic Collection, which is volume 16. Dead Man's Hand. Yes, it does contain a Dead Man's Hand crossover. If you're curious though, what is a Dead Man's Hand crossover, you might ask? It's a cross between, get this, Daredevil and two titles that are currently no longer published by Marvel Comics. Nomad, which is done by Fabian Nicieza. Yes, seriously, Fabian Nicieza wrote this book. And Punisher War Journal. I am not kidding about that. It was a Punisher War Journal. Yes. Though it does. Now here's what this book does collect. Issues 301 to 311 for Daredevil. And number 8. And here's the thing. That's all you get for the main Daredevil book. Just 11 issues plus an annual. Because they're doing Dead Man's Hand crossover, which also involved Nomad Volume 2. I say Volume 2 because it was a miniseries published prior to that one. 4 through 6, Punisher War Journal. Issues 45 to 47. Fun fact about these two titles. In the case of Nomad, 18 issues after the crossover wrapped up, the series managed to last 8 that long. Basically, about a year and a half later, the book was over. Punisher War Journal managed to last for 33 issues before finally concluded. And also include material from Marvel Holiday Special number 2. These are rated for these issues. You have D.B. Kester, Gregory, who mails most of the Daredevil stuff. Fantasies, like I said, did the Nomad book. I'll get to. There's actually a special guest star in the book, which I'll get to that. The Punisher War Journal. I kind of forgot he did this book because I know he worked in the main Punisher book. I kind of forgot he worked on the Punisher War Journal book too. Chuck Dixon. Yes, Chuck Dixon worked on Punisher War Journal. Punisher War Journal was the first spin-off ongoing series Punisher and the most successful one. There's been a couple others. There's been one over the years published that was basically Punisher War Zone. And there's also Punisher Armory, but that lasted for 10 issues. War Zone lasted for about 41 issues. War Journal was 80 issues, and Volume 2 lasted for 104 issues. You also have Gene Harding, George Carlone, and Ann Nocenti. Yes, Ann Nocenti. Probably because they threw in an issue here. We have M.C. Wayman, Ron Gardney, Scott McDaniel, Pat Oakley, John Herbert, Dan Poliska, Larry Alexander, June Bergama, and Tom Greenberg. Excuse me. The front cover I showed you is done by Scott McDaniel. The back of the book is done by Lee Weeks. Now, these issues are published from February 1992 to December 1992. So basically all in 1 year. And yes, I will do some follow-up with this one. Don't worry about that. Now, the first couple issues in here is, simply put, like, we have Daredevil back in full swing of things. And now this is a bit of an oddish era, per se. It's like we have Punisher back to kind of what he's supposed to be doing. But nope, let's not fight the Owl first couple issues. Yes, the Owl who's wearing these weird goggles. Yeah, this is a quick, like, 3-parter. And this is done by G.G. Chester. Which I believe this is just after Anderson left the book and he took over the book for most of the remaining issues of this run. Yes. And this is all about the Owl and him going nuts. That's the Owl for you. I love the Owl, but man, this thing is weird. Yeah, it is really, really weird. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm like, okay, why the heck is the Owl here? I have no idea. Plus, also, Karen Page makes her. She basically comes back being a regular character in the book. No Foggy Nelson. Oh, now eventually Foggy Nelson does come back. After actually it was a 3-parter. And then, well, then of course you have 304 be a standalone issue. But 305, oh boy, 305. By the way, we have the owl doing this silliness. Yeah, love the owl. This is a great 3-parter to start this off with. But it's just kind of weird that the owl would do this. But yeah, he's got more cybernetics than usual. And I'm asking, apparently his eyes are weird. Yeah, it's a very odd. It's good, but it's weird. And this lasts for 3 issues. Oh yeah, his only disguise, goggles. And apparently lost some of his hair too for some reason. Don't know why, but he did. Now, by the way, I love these covers for Daredevil. This was the early 90s, but it's just kind of odd. Now, DB Custer is still a writer. It's basically it's a day. It's basically Daredevil saving a baby. Just doing Daredevil. It's basically a day in Daredevil's, like, patrol stuff. That's most what it is. It's just passing the time. And then we come to, by far, a very weird 2-parter. I say weird because also, here's a fun fact about this 2-part storyline. By the way, here's the cover for this story. Like, wait, that cover looks kind of familiar. Didn't the car review this issue plus the following issue several years ago on YouTube channel? Yes. Yes, he did. As for, he just randomly selected it. But even I agree, this 2-parter is weird. Like, what's the whole point of having a female Surgeon General? Now, if you want to get full action-packed review of these 2 issues, like these Young Blood issues, watch Top of the Fourth Wall. He's got more in-depth thoughts on these things than I do, because it's just weird. Though you could say this 2-parter is mostly put the best way you can kind of mildly describe it. It's just basically there to help have a small amount of build up for the Dead Man's Hand crossover. And just have Spider make a guest appearance here. But the weird thing about Surgeon General, yeah, and this is definitely something I do agree with Linkari about this. After this 2-parter, the Surgeon General herself is never seen again. Nope. Never is. Unknown why she stopped appearing at this 2-parter. It's like she's there, and then she gets arrested, thrown out the jail. Then that's it for that one. Before we move on to Dead Man's Hand, first we have something part of the System Bites crossover. Yes, System Bites. It was one of these annual crossovers. Now, System Bites basically was something that crossed up with just 4 annuals. Yes, the first part was done in Punisher number 5. This was part 2. Part 3 was in the Wonder Man annual. Yes, one of only 2 annuals his series ever published. No, seriously. And then the finale was in Guardians of the Galaxy annual number 2, which was basically that one, which is the debut as a group for the Galactic Guardians. Is there any real plot synopsis of this crossover? Not really per se. It just, let's just basically have the whole thing with System Bites. There's not really much info about this event, aside from the fact it's one of Marvel's little mini annual events. Now, basically, the main System Bites are maxed out. That's done by George Wright. Greg Wright with MC Wayman doing the artwork. Devil's Top Villains. Top 10 Villains. George Cargalone and Dan Peruski. Cropper and the Wild Boys in Disturbing Alike. Also Greg Wright. And pretty much pretty much does this whole thing. It's all about cyberspace stuff, and we have guest appearances here by Bushwhacker. Yes, Bushwhacker, who technically is a Punisher, a Daredevil villain, but he also fought the Punisher as well. At one point, this guy died by having his throat slit by Wolverine, and they just came back. We also guest appearances by Deathlock. It's an okay annual per se, but it's nothing to write home about. And here's the weird thing: the following annual that comes right after this one, no crossover, none whatsoever. And then we finally get to Dead Man's Hand, a very interesting crossover, which basically involves like, you probably would think a crossover like this of all the Avengers, but nope. That's the weird thing about this crossover. It's simply put, Punisher, Nomad, and Daredevil involved with this. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Basically, this 9-part crossover. Yeah, and it takes place in, of all places, Viva Las Vegas. Yep. It's simply put, basically, these guys trying to take on some crime bosses in Las Vegas. And those crime bosses being Tombstone, Warren Von Strucker. It's basically all the criminal organizations in the Marvel Comics universe. Now, I get maybe Punisher and Daredevil's involved in here, but Nomad? Not really. Nomad was literally a nomad. He basically traveled with a baby called Bucky, and he traveled across the country. Who was this nomad, you might ask? Jack Monroe. Now, this Bucky, this Julie Winters, this little baby, this character here, well, after the Nomad series wrapped up, she popped up once after this. Once. In an issue of Ed Brubaker's run for Captain America, where this is the issue where, of all things, this is the issue where they killed off Jack Monroe. Yep. So that was her last appearance in flashback. That was a long time ago. Yeah, and it's like, apparently prior to his death, apparently his adopted had no memory of him, probably because she was a baby. Yeah. These are your representatives. You have people representing the Red Skull, Louis Nenmark, the manga, several manga, Ferris, Hydra, they've heard of it in the book as New Hydra, Mr. Tulliver. You're probably thinking, who's Mr. Tulliver? This guy is Cable's adopted son. No, I'm not kidding about that. He's Cable's adopted son. He got killed off in Wolverine 100. He referred to himself as Mr. Traveler. Yes. We also have Secret Empire, the Yakuza, Slug, Silvermine. Yes, frickin' Silvermine involved in this silly crossover. Yes, seriously. It is by far one of the most hilarious things. And they're all in Las Vegas. And then we have this bodyguard named Snakeskin. I'll get to him, because the whole thing of this book is consumed with this crossover. Yeah. And then we have this woman who's got a big belly. Yes, who is this mysterious woman? Well, they have a character named Joni. Yes. Who actually is a Frank Miller character. It's basically this old white woman who mostly appeared on pages of Daredevil. But here's the thing. After this crossover wrapped up, she popped up once after this. And Elektra Magazine #1. And that was it. Yeah, that was her last appearance. That was back in 1996. Yeah, she's a minor assassin associated with a hand. Yeah, but this is a very good axe-pack crossover. That mostly, if you read this whole thing, it feels as though as soon as the Punisher comes involved in this crossover, it's all about him. He's like the star of it. He's this guy called Snakeskin, which I'll get to that. So basically, mob bosses want to hire him. They say no, so they try to kill him, and of course, they all try to escape. while trying to avoid all these mob bosses. Yes. Yeah, Daredevil versus... You have Nomad versus Tombstone, which... No, these two never fought, but this crossover is the first time they ever met. Interesting, though, you have two characters. You have Tombstone and Daredevil. Well, Daredevil was a character that Jerry Conway wrote for, and Tombstone was a character he created. Now, as for Slug, who the heck is Slug, you might ask? He's this overweight crime boss from Miami. He's simply, the best way to describe him, he is Miami's version of Wilson Fisk. Except, unlike Wilson Fisk, who actually does work out, despite looking like he's fat, he's actually just really a lot of muscle. Slug is basically what he says his name is. He's a slug. He eats a lot. He can't move. He, at one point, for some strange reason, was replaced by a frickin' Skrull. He made his debut in the 6th annual for Spectacus member, released back in the 80s of all things. Yes, he's a guy who, as far as I can tell, no one gave a damn about. Not really. You have Tombstone basically becoming a crime boss, unlike in the animated series, Amazing Spider-Man series, Spider-Man animated series, where he's like a hired gun. By the way, his car he drives, it's a hearse. Also, apparently, the way he wrote it, like, you have Bushwhack involved here. This is, of course, a Nomad issue. And then we have the representatives, basically. You have, call out here, representing Ferris, Andreas von Strucker, one of the two sons of Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. Warner von Strucker, the elder son of Baron von Strucker of the new Hydra. Justin Hammer, corporate entrepreneur. Mr. Tulliver, a.k.a. Cable's son of the European cartel. Jonin of the Hand. Tombstone of the manga. Representatives of the Secret Empire. Master Tazo of the Yakuza. Mind-based Capo, the Slug. Hammerhead. Yeah, those representatives. But this issue has a guest appearance by... Because Nasija created him, we have a guest star appearance here by... Deadpool! Yes, in his sole appearance outside X-Force during the first 2 years of the time he's recurring in X-Force. This is the only comic he appeared outside of Dead X-Force period of time. Like, yeah, the only reason why he's here, because Nasija created him. Yep. He's a fighting nomad. So, I'll find some free issues. And here's the thing. After the issue, he's gone. Yep. Excuse me, Mr. Traveler. And then, oh, by the way, in this story, we have apparently Punisher getting involved with Viper. Yes. Where he's working with her in order for her regain control of Hydra. Hydra, this has been a recurring thing for a long time. It's like every time Baron von Strucker dies, we always have this power play who could take his position as the head Hydra. A lot of the time it's Viper being Madam Hydra, and yet she gets ousted or she gets put back into power. At one point, she tried to enlist the help of Wolverine get involved with her, basically a power play. And now she's enlisted the help of the Punisher. Yes, which, like I said, the only reason... Now, you're probably thinking, why is Punisher here? Because it's crime bosses. So of course we have the frickin' Punisher here. No, seriously. That is the only reason why Punisher is here. Because of crime bosses. Yep. Yeah, you think this is him. But apparently this one is actually... The one appears as crossover is not really Viper at all. Yeah, it was revealed in the issue of Power Pack. This is actually not Viper at all. It's just somebody called the Pit Vipers. Yes, so you think it's him, but nope, not really. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah. Also, Punisher's wearing camo pants. Though he does wear his traditional attire, plus the leather jacket he sometimes likes to wear. Yeah, Though he basically, the fun fact about a leather jacket is he still wears this thing, but he doesn't wear much of the body armor anymore. Nope, he's basically just got rid of that. The body armor thing, that was something John Romita Sr. came up with. Here in these issues, you still have some stuff basically happening in the main Punisher book, where it's like he's undercover, this guy working for this conversation, and we have this old man with his robot. It's so main. Yep, it's so main. A Spider-Man character. And who created so main, my ask? Stan Lee did. Yep. Who turned him a cyborg, you might ask? That was something I believe Bill Mantlo did. Yes, I believe Bill Mantlo was one turned him a cyborg. So you have this guy who's like a Leatherface stand-in. He's here for a chunk of the story. He wears his mask. He's called Chainsaw. Yep. He is a Chuck Dixon character, and he appears in the Punisher book just as crossover, and after this he appears for a couple of more comic events, and that was it. Yeah, apparently Chuck Dixon just had to use this guy for some reason. And also, he apparently is like a ripoff of Leatherface. Mm-hmm. And then, like, Punisher get back in the room, he's like, I need some light. If you go hit it, did you? Yep, and the beautiful Viper's in his bed. Yep. Yeah, is this a wonderful scene? Yeah, imagine if you basically the Punisher, if basically Mr. Punisher, if it wasn't like killing criminals, I'm like, if I like a beautiful woman like Viper in that bed, I'm like, I'll be hopping in that bed with her because she's hot. Despite the fact she's old. Yeah, she hasn't aged in the frickin' 20s. Apparently she has some like formula in her body that keeps her forever young. She's one of like 2 women in the Marvel Universe who confirmed they got this. The other, of course, being the Black Widow. That was due to the programming. And the other woman who's still forever young is Spitfire. Yeah, even though she's a grandmother, she's basically hot. Yep. And at one point she was dating Blade, which currently that relationship is never brought up for some reason. Nope. And apparently Chainsaw's got his hands on the Bucky baby. And of course then Nomad gets involved with Punisher, which, to my knowledge, I don't think he got involved with Punisher after this one. Nope. But yeah, it's kind of weird how this crossover is written. It's like, oh, like Daredevil's here, and then we get Nomad, and then once Punisher shows up, it's all about him. He's like the star. Like, nope, this is mine. I'm basically taking over this whole crossover. And that's what it feels like to me. You even have a brief fight sequence between Jack Monroe and Punisher. And here's the thing. Through all dialogue, there's no mention of the fact he used to be a sidekick to Captain America. A guy who Punisher's got huge respect for. Yep. But it's like, you have Daredevil, who does play a role in this crossover, and yet he's a bit player in this crossover. It's like he's only gets involved whenever his book gets involved. That's kind of the weird thing about this. And there is a strange fact about this crossover, which still in effect this very day, which I'll get to that. Yep. But it's overall a really fun crossover. Mm-hmm. We do have one confirmed death in this crossover, which I'll get to that. And it happens in the finale for this crossover. Yep, it happens in the finale. Where we have this guy, Snakeskin. He takes off his mask, takes out a monocle, and reveal, oh yeah, he's Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. He's like, yeah. Or he's like, you have potential to be a good leader. I'm going to kill you now. Yes, basically he murders his own son. Yes, Baron Wolfgang von Strucker murders his firstborn son. What a virus. Because he's a threat to his power. Yeah. I'm like, wow, so petty. And then Warner dies. And then apparently a piece of him gets picked up by this guy in the green mask, who I think is supposed to be Terror Incorporated. Yes. Yeah, it's Terror Incorporated. Yep, that's who this guy is. He's Terror Incorporated. St. George #2? Okay. And here's the weird thing about this guy. The guy who's known as Terror. Who actually got his own solo book. Yeah. He actually had his own solo book. Yep. He's a creation of D.B. Sester, Claus Johnson, and Margaret Clark. His first appearance is back in, and this is a strange book to make his debut in, St. George #2. Yep. That was his debut appearance. And apparently he's from a different universe, but I believe he was the star of the Terror Incorporated ongoing series. Yeah, he was the star of it, like, because I think he was kind of involved with Daredevil stuff prior to this, and then he gets his own solo book. And if you're curious, though, how long did the book last for? 13 issues. Yep, 13 issues. There was a second volume published, but on the Max imprint, and plus, it's set in a different universe. But apparently it's confirmed canon with him for some reason. Yeah. But yeah, even after this one, he still appeared in his own solo book for quite a while. Until his book finally was concluded. Mm-hmm. His last most recent appearance was actually in Despicable Deadpool #298. Yeah, unlike, let's say, Solo and... Unlike Unmemorize the Mercs of Money, he didn't get a solo book afterwards. Nope. Yeah, Solo, Slapstick, and Fool Killer, they all got solo books after they left Mercs Money. But not Terror Inc. for some reason. I don't know why, but that's basically what it is with him. But yeah, really good crossover. I thought it was really good, though I think the main weakness in this one was that, oh, let's just have the Punisher take over the crossover just because he shows up here. And then we have the finale in Punisher Wardrobe number 47, which is like the finale for the story. Mm-hmm. But yeah, really good. Does wrap this stuff up here for this crossover. And we go separate ways afterwards. And then we have 2 issues of the book where you have 310 and 311 have a guest appearance by Calypso. This was a few years after the death of Kraven the Hunter. She just shows up here. And involves demons. It's an odd story, to say the least. And then right afterwards, we have the Marvel Super Special. Yeah. We have the Holiday Special afterwards, and just Daredevil basically getting involved with Christmas. It's a really good short story for him. I like it. Yeah. But this book, I give it a... I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It's good. The only problem with the book is that here's the thing about this book. That's not it. Yeah. Like, my guess is this era for Daredevil, probably the reason why they had to do that like, the Fall from Grace storyline. Now, I will talk a little bit more about this this era once I finish up talking about issues 3. I'm also going to talk about 312, the 318, and the annual number 9, which I'm going to talk about that right now. Alright, first let's talk about annual number 9. Which you could say this is like not long after that 311 issue because it all features a Calypso. And here's the thing, it was the first of 2 annuals in a row. No crossovers involved. Nope, no crossovers. And there you go. There's the cover for the annual. Yeah. like the previous annual, series of stories. Now, Gregory Wright does pretty much the first two stories, with Glenn Hardling doing the third story. I'm like, why didn't they include this in the Epic collection? Yeah, it's kind of weird though. They include those 11 issues, and like 3 issues of Nomad, 3 issues of Partial War Journal, and like 6, 7 is the annual, 8 is a short story. Like, that's 19 issues. I guess they just, there probably wasn't room. That's probably the reason why. Yeah, based on reading this annual, you could definitely say it is right afterwards. And we first started with Punisher taking on, I think it was some thug, and ends up breaking the guy's nose, and it just you have him basically taking care of a trial. The arc here is not bad per se, just it's a very odd-ish story. Involved like horror, it just really kind of odd per se. But this is your annual for Daredevil, a very weird and supernatural based annual. I give the annual itself I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. But now moving on to issue 312. Now 312, 318 still, to my knowledge, are not in trade. Nope, not in trade. Yeah, first you have Daredevil 312. Daredevil. Into the fire! Well, yeah. I'll get some more about my thoughts. You have Daredevil, same people. You have Daredevil defending, I believe. Who is this woman here? It's like, let's see if we can find it here. It's not Karen Page, no. We did this guy called Captain Danny who pops up for this issue and the following issue, and that was it for him. Yeah. You have James H. Hurley. He only appears just for this. This was his sole appearance. Mm-hmm. Like, apparently these characters only appear for this. It's just like a quick two-parter. Just Daredevil on trial. It's not really much of anything at all. Not really. He has a kid named Mark Carpenter who he also gets killed off in the story. Yeah, it's a very odd two-parter to say the least. Yeah. And don't worry, we're going to get into more weird stuff here for Daredevil. Because with issues 314, 315, we have another two-parter. It's like we have storyline with Mr. Fear. And we have this woman named Shock. And she's only here for these 2 issues. Yeah, seriously. You start off with basically Daredevil being stabbed. It's supposed to be a lecture. Nope, it's a dream. It's a dream. Yeah. It just, the whole point of this crossover is trying to drive Daredevil crazy. Via Mr. Fear and Shock. That's basically the best way to surmise issues 314, 315. Yep. You have this woman who's here as the previous Mr. Fear's daughter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's here just for these 2 appearances, and that's it. You have Alan Flanagan, who actually was Mr. Fear, and it's like his daughter apparently is now like a bad guy now for. And is he still around? Yes, he is. There's a lot more that his daughter does. Yes. It's like after this by the way, his previous appearance was back in Web Spider-Man 63, which showed up the previous year in 1990. This was 1983 when this issue came out. Yes. And you're probably thinking, okay, like after this weird two-part involving Shock, and then you have basically a standalone issue with this beautiful cover by Kevin Costner, where basically just you have Daredevil take on some thugs. Yep. Yeah, that's the best way. It's just a Ram standalone issue. But what about the last two issues of this thing? Well, it's an appearance by Taskmaster and Stealthman. Yes, seriously. And, like, just cause havoc in Daredevil's life. That's the best way to surmise basically what happened in these two issues. Yep. Took a while to bring back Mr. Stealthman. Yeah, it's kind of interesting though they took this while. Because, if you're curious though, when was the last time Stealthman ever appeared in Daredevil, my ass? Well, this storyline does deal with the aftermath of, excuse me, the previous story arc per se, but thing is, prior to this two-part appearance, he last appeared back in Captain America number 413 as part of this montage of villains where he had to fight Captain America. And after this two-parter, he popped up in She-Hulk, Avengers Unplugged. Basically, with sporadically appeared in Daredevil / Spider-Man miniseries. His most recent appearance was actually an issue of Iron Man of all things. Yes, Wolverine appearing there. Yeah, why Taskmaster's here? I have no freaking idea. Yeah, it just caused havoc in Daredevil's life. Yep. And then pretty much right after this, we have the Fall from Grace storyline, which ended this era. Now, you're probably thinking, was this a return to form for Daredevil? Not really. This is the weird era. Yes. This is the first of 3 status quos. That's basically what this... That's why I talk about these particular... You could think of this era collected like it's the first 25 issues. It's basically from 301 to 325. It's like... Apparently the writer, like, okay, even though Daredevil got his law license back, guess how many times he used it in these 25 issues? He used it like 3 times. He never defended any clients per se. It felt like, though, we still had semi-continuation of the stuff we had before. Because that's what it feels like anyways, viewing these issues. Like, the most interesting thing that happened throughout this whole entire era was Dead Man Tan crossover. Yes. That and Fall from Grace. Those were the 2 best storylines this whole thing. Because we have a 3-parter with Owl. We have a standalone issue. A 2-parter fight a woman who doesn't appear again after the 2-parter. And then you have Dead Man's Hand. A 2-parter with and we have 2-parter with Calypso, which all continues in the annual. And you have a story, and then we have a bunch of 2-parters, like stuff with Mr. Fear's daughter, like a bunch of 2-parters, like, okay. And then you conclude it with Fall from Grace. I get kind of the reason why, like, read these issues already. I get while reviewing these issues, I can guess the reason why they decided to do the bullcrap they decided with the Daredevil, the armor and stuff, because the stuff here was simply just not working. I would say that a lot of people probably weren't happy with this era for Daredevil. It's probably an era that probably will not get talked about at all. I would say probably the most talked about storyline in this whole entire era is probably Fall from Grace. Even that storyline, here's the thing. The best thing about the first 18 issues, really good artwork. I love the artwork for 18 issues. The Fall from Grace storyline, first half of the storyline, really good artwork. And then halfway through the storyline, for some reason, which did really bad artwork. Excuse me. You can kind of say Daredevil get back his groove until, like, basically around 351. That's when he got back to his classic groove again. Took him a while, but that's when he finally came back to it. And that's the best way to surmise basically that what happened to Daredevil. Oh yeah, and with this, I officially have closed out the 1990s for Daredevil. Yep. Effectively becoming the second ever comic series I reviewed, where I've reviewed everything for the series that came out in the 1990s. You might be thinking, what was the first one? Batman, of course. Yep, I view all these as Batman. So no, Daredevil basically has joined it. The only series now are next in line to get out of the 90s is simply Avengers, Amazing Spider-Man, Uncanny X-Men. I could say possibly Iron Man could be getting there. Yes. But aside from these four, not much. I mean, the one I barely scratched the surface when it comes to names for them is Wolverine. Him, and along with other titles, I have barely scratched the surface for them when it comes to 1990s. But the four I just named, Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Kenny X-Men, these five have most of it, or like almost all 90s done, but getting there. For DC, as of currently, only like technically I have gotten the 90s for one series, and that's Nightwing, but that's it. But in the case of like really big ones publishing for like a long time, I would probably say the only series now is be next line to get out of 90s is Detective Comics. And I'll take just about a couple more trades, I'll be done with 90s for him. Yep, but with this, also, Daredevil does not have a lot left to go to review. Because I just finished up 1990s. And all 300s. So as of right now, I've read from 251 to 461. Yeah, roughly like almost 200, like a little over 200 issues in a row I've reviewed for Daredevil. And it'll just be just a little more trades before I can finally say get far back as the 80s when it comes to this one, because I'm still reviewing Volume 2, so expect to see more of that in the future, okay? So yes, that's it for Circle View. Next one's probably going to be a review for Doctor Who, and that'll probably be it for today, okay? Next video. Bye.